Hi, I'm Matt O'Halloran, Account Director at Smart Spaces. I'm here today to talk to you about our Smart Building programme. We are the appointed Smart Building platform for 22 Bishopsgate, one of London's tallest buildings, and it will be the smartest skyscraper in Europe. So I'm going to take you through a few case studies and tell you a little bit about how we do things. Smart Spaces, we are a company that's 10 years old now. We were founded in 2010. Early on in our business, we built out Marriott's European meeting room conferencing booking system. Did a lot around serviced offices and co-working. So we started off as meeting room experts. But we also built out a lot of PropTech web apps like space planning, tenant portals and so forth. We've created Smart Rewards, a shopping centre loyalty program. It's in about 8 centres in the UK. And really in 2017 was the advent of smart buildings from our perspective, when Great Portland Estates asked us to look at 240 Blackfriars. Since then, we've gone on to smart enable the greater proportion of Great GPE's estate. We work with the likes of Ashby Capital, Helical. We are obviously, as I've referenced, AXA Real Assets and Lipton Rogers and 22. So a whole plethora of buildings now across central London and wider into the regions. We're moving into Birmingham and Manchester, and now looking to have their first smart buildings too. Some of the examples here extend across future works in Slough, 2 Brunel Road, U&I development. That is 2 significant buildings which will be fully operational at PC and smart enabled imminently. Hanover Square is GPE's latest development over Crossrail in the heart of the West End. It's 7 buildings. It'll be home to KKR and Glencore. And then we'll do some business park campuses, Columbia Threadneedle. We're into Breakspear Park and Hyde Park Hayes. They were owners of Croxley, it's now with Goldman Sachs, and so forth. So as we move through Canary Wharf, we are working extensively across, as you can imagine, some very well-known developers and real estate owners in London. What we want to talk about as well is that the Workplace app is well thought of and considered around customer engagement, trying to build communities, looking to streamline communications. An important distinction with smart buildings is that we are surfacing the base build controls as well. We are interfacing with all of the systems vendors across the base build. Now that makes us more of an operating system, so of which we can overlay, of course, the community app. However, it's really important to make that distinction that a building operating system is a much more sophisticated piece. So what are the commercial drivers? Well, we've known for some time that the convergence of hospitality and workplace has driven trends across office and mixed use. We see that connectivity, BREEAM, all of the accreditations are super important, as well as the fit out and the look and feel of the environment. But what we've done is we've approached smart buildings very much from the wellness, comfort and control perspective. We're looking to enhance the customer experience, serve data-driven decisions around engagement within the workplace, and ultimately drive operational efficiency and reduce costs for sustainability purposes. Now that is a full, complete end-to-end platform. So we think about this 360 environment, we think about a very clean, slick UI in which to consume the wealth of services and amenity in these workplaces. And what do we mean by that? It's something that's going to be enjoyed from the start right through to the end of day. And this next film is just going to show you really a day in the life of one of our buildings. It's home to HBO Turner Broadcasting. It's got CNN's new Central London studios and a whole plethora of media and IT companies. I'll just play that next. Okay, so we have quite an extensive ecosystem now. And what you saw in that film was lots of the controls where it was access for the building user, their visitors, the controls of across lighting, environmental controls around heating, cooling, and you saw the community engagement piece as well. The buying power of a building now means you can go out and get offers from the likes of Jim Box and any other trading brand that's interested in getting their product in front of your audience. So that's quite compelling. But it is not just goes beyond just perks and rewards. So you see here quite an extensive wheel. Just going to cherry pick a few items more on the mechanical side. Blinds. So we have an interface with Somfy, and that is a mechanical blinds installation which reacts to solar radiation. If it's tall or heavily glazed buildings that have the blinds within the glazing, then as the building warms through solar radiation, to not stress the plant, the blinds will descend. Now, when we approach this from the user perspective, you just spent a substantial sum of money for a view of St. Paul's and you've got a VIP visit and it's a gloomy day, then of course it's not going to be too satisfying if the blinds are all down. So occasionally there's the opportunity to raise the blinds through manual control through the app. We think about space utilization, activity-based workplaces now, no assigned workstations, smart meeting rooms. This is all intertwined to ensure that we have maximum use of the space at hand. And of course, through access, it's not part of the base build, but having contactless access, having the ability to avoid friction on arrival, destination control, these are all areas of which there have been huge advancements. Power and energy is a very interesting use case. We read the meters, we look at billing, so your per kilowatt per hour. However, we expose many more points. So we're able to ascertain hertz into a building. And we had a building that PC'd not so long ago, which had the fire alarms periodically going off, and it had emergency lighting tripping quite frequently. Turns out we were able to evidence back to the power supply company that we were being undersupplied into the building. So it's interesting the use cases that come about once you start to smart enable buildings, which you might not have envisaged from the original concept. HVAC is probably one of the most compelling areas. We have got a fan coil system in place. We can do what's called auto scaling. So as more people enter a floor plate, we turn more fan coils on. As more people leave, we turn more off, and we still maintain the set point. And of course, the beauty of digital twins, which I'll come to in a moment, means that you can run simulations, which are very compelling for operations, because before you deploy to the live environment, you can run multiple simulations to ascertain what would be more effective. And so, yeah, as you work your way around all the way through to concierge, lifestyle services, it's very extensive. And we leave AI machine learning here on the wheel because what smart buildings are doing at the moment, by connecting the buildings, by collecting all these disparate sources of data traditionally held by each systems vendor into one data lake, we are going to provide the food source of the future for the algorithms which are yet to be written. We can do lots around machine learning today, but we do feel the science that will be applied over the next decade is where real estate will really truly benefit, particularly around energy. And now is the time to start collecting that data in the right format for AI to be applied. How this all comes together is we work with the base build. So BACnet IP, we talk the native software language. Modbus is how we read the meters. MQTT is how we extract the data from the building. And then you have a nice RESTful API that we work with, which is Smart Spaces middleware. So APIs, application programming interfaces, are how the World Wide Web works, and we're no different in that respect. Interestingly, does it have to be shiny and new? So undoubtedly with smart buildings, brand new developments, major refurbishments are where the focus is. However, we can go back, and we can go back a substantial period of time, over 10 years. We have done buildings even earlier than that. So you can retrospectively look to enable a smart building, and it's all down to an individual survey and looking at the hardware you have in place. The important point here, of course, is this is about software. So long as there's a compatible control system we can talk to, then we can apply the software. And so you might find, even retrospectively, it's not too much of an upheaval to smart enable a building. So we work with your IT business. We look at the network. We want to make sure that each systems vendor is working through a landlord managed switch. And then we're making the building much more secure. We're taking everything that's exposed to the internet down, and we're making sure it's only working on-prem And then we're taken out of the building, rather than multiple APIs, rather than multiple systems vendors modems being exposed to the internet, we're taking out one API, and that's acting as a building guardian. It's very secure, and it means then you can consume all the services and all the amenity and all the bookable spaces through any user interface we apply the API to. Obviously, the app is the easiest way for building users to do that on a day-to-day basis. However, we have smart wearables, you've got voice activation, there is, of course, wall panels outside meeting rooms. They're all interfaced, digital twins and web portals and intranet for building operations. This is our digital twin. This is the more bleeding edge side of visualization. We expect to see huge amounts of growth in this area over the next few years. This is very much around looking at remotely controlling buildings, running simulations, and finding the optimization strategies in a way that is going to make it much more easier through a single pane of glass. So I'm just going to show this one to you next. Right, so what's really interesting there, of course, is being aware of digital twins. What we're seeing here, of course, is the overlay of the controls as well. So we're not just reading the outputs from the building, we're able to directly affect control over the building as well, remotely. So that's quite compelling. And during this time of the pandemic, when we experience ultra low occupancy across a lot of our clients' portfolios, it's going to be very interesting use cases to find out how the ability for those portfolio engineers, those building engineers, to close down large parts of the building while still maintaining some level of operation is going to, of course, affect the savings, of course, that you would want, rather than the plant just being running 7 till 7 without people in the building. So then how do we think about getting people into the space? Well, through a smart visitor management system, you can do a number of very clever things. You can book a meeting room through Outlook. It will generate directly through the visitor management system a styled email invitation. It will get the landlord's brand onto there, the building brand, the occupier brand. It will give directions, the arrival protocol, and of course a QR code like you saw in the film for the visitor to skip reception and go directly through the turnstiles. If they onboard the pass into their Apple Wallet, then using a beacon above reception, we're able to push it directly to their lock screen. That makes it just much more easier for them to get direct access. The visitor pass, of course, very much like boarding airlines these days, when you go through security at the airport, we've become very accustomed to this use of QR codes. For security, they have the ability to unlock speed lanes as well to let people through. However, rather than it being a clicker direct to the reader, this time it's audited. And we've also got the added functionality of turning doors off automatic. I think that's a nice one where you have high levels of protest and you might want to just make sure you need an access card or credential to get into the building or out of hours. So the smart lighting controls, what you saw in the film was the dimming of the lights at the end was sub 300 milliseconds, and that's recorded in real time. Now, bearing in mind that's not going from the app directly to the controller, it's going up to our cloud hosting environment first. It's being stored in the data lake. We're looking at whether or not there's cause and effect implications by any action of any one system. And then it's putting the message back into the building direct to the controller. So to achieve those types of speed is the benchmark for the customer experience that we're looking to ensure all of our buildings enjoy. Temperature, of course, one of the most contested areas of any office occupancy. What we've got now is very charming, really, is the ability for an occupier to self-problem solve and to have in the palm of their hands the ability to alter the set point within a deadband, of course, is something that's really compelling. It takes a lot of the heat off front of house, improves the relationship and the rapport, so they can focus on more community building initiatives. And it just takes away the very stressful approach of having to wait for a BMS engineer to go and change the set point. When you put these types of controls in, say, an office manager's hands, not everybody's delegated that control, obviously, but somebody who's appointed those permissions, we then want to make sure that they're appraised and aware of the impact they're having. So real time, they're seeing what the energy consumption is. And a way to help with visualization is we use comparables. So it could be homes worth of electricity burnt per year, pounds of coal, barrels of oil, air miles, taxi rides, different ways in which to help them understand that if they're going to set their own targets to reduce their energy footprint, it's something that they can measure in a way that's meaningful to them. Now, if we're going to get to carbon net zero by 2030, we do need everybody on this journey. So we certainly want to make sure the occupiers are involved. We also have robo receptionists deployed in certain locations. And that's one where, you could definitely see where you have a reduced front of house complement, or they need support during business hours when it gets particularly busy. It's quite eventful and theatrical to have the robot available to you. So I'm just going to show you a small snippet here of Heidi in action.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm Heidi and I am delighted to welcome you to my new home, One Hyde Park Hayes, 92,100 square feet of brand new smart enabled office space. You might be wondering what I meant by smart enabled. Using your One Hyde Park Hayes app, you can control lighting and aircon with a simple tap. You can even individually tailor aircon to everyone's needs. Finally, I'd like to thank you all for coming. Please enjoy your lunch.
Right, so there, obviously, voice, very important. And we see, obviously, the trend towards voice ascending rapidly now. Significant portion of the workforce will be very comfortable with voice-activated controls over the next decade. And so it's important as part of our program. So what you get is two sides of the app here. From the occupier perspective, the concept of remember, the idea that you can message people in the building, you can have that close contact. It's GDPR compliant. So if you have a public profile, you can like, comment and share on the social wall. If you're private, you can read only. But you can get involved, and that's really, really important. We want people to feel that they are part of something that's bigger than themselves. They might experience that within their own brand, a company that they work for, and they might want to see that extended as well and collaborate further within those people who share the space. So you can have loyalty and events which are driven really through more meaningful engagement, so we can understand truly where the interests lie of each of the occupiers. Desk booking, of course, you can use sensors now that we can ascertain your bookable workstation on demand. That agility with activity-based workplaces is becoming more of a trend that's picking up more rapidly. There's been a pendulum shift now seems to be underway from the ultra density that's been the driver through London real estate for some time to actually through COVID looking at how you can disperse employees around the workspace a little bit more considerately. So from the left to right, you've got the ability, like I said, to accumulate offers hyper-locally. You've got the buying power of the building. We've got digital loyalty. We've got the ability to have reward stamps, redeem offers. And then we have the magazines as well, which are another way to really ascertain where people's interests truly lie. So when you do curate events, and when you do put on different gatherings, you're doing so in a way that's meaningful to the people who occupy your building. We also have as well integrated food ordering. So we're very comfortable now, lots of people are, with the Just Eats of the world. But when we're trying to drive spend back into the core, the on-site amenity can be exposed to that central customer base within the building. And one way to do it, of course, is to have pre-order your food. So have the food ordering app. Right now with the pandemic as well, it's seen as another great way to repurpose the tech to ensure that people aren't having congestion and friction at the point of sale, but they can pre-order, prepay, and then go to designated collection points. So then you go to the other side of the app, and that's more about the FM. It's around how do you manage effectively the comms with your Occupy base. What are we doing? What else are we serving up through the app? So document management, fit out guides, fault reporting with integration with CAFM. You can send support tickets direct to front of house, your app support tickets directly to us, of course. And then you have Occupy services, you have the directory, you have of different brands in the building, other people you can contact. And then we have all of the APIs with London Transport as well. So whether it's the tube line stations, mainline train stations, roads, or indeed we have international airports as well, London, London Stansted, Heathrow and Gatwick Airport. And they all help to have a single sign-on for one app that's serving up all the content that's needed to go about your daily business, weather and travel information, service charge, lease information, depending on your role and permission. And we do find now, because it's a white label product, with occupiers often choosing to brand the building app to their own business, they can also adopt it as an intranet as well. Looking at the sensors that are available to us today, we are able to work with all the major providers. The CoggyPoint system you see here deployed is offering up space optimization, a way in which PIR sensors are just not going to give you through heat maps. So it's individual headcount in the space, and that can help take smart buildings to another level as well. When you look at the different sensors, whether it's around occupancy, but also around, well, with regards to CO2 and noise as well. This is those sensors. When they're deployed, we're able to show you through visualization how the auto scaling can work through the different fan coils, depending on how many people are in a space. And we're also now as well able to repurpose the technology around social distancing. So we're able to identify when people are becoming too close to each other, when gatherings are too frequent or too large. And then of course, you can inform building management, you can inform somebody within the company, and they can take measures to perhaps retrain or suggest new ways in which their staff and employees can use the space even more securely and safely. Of course, lots of buildings don't have these sensors in place, so we can work off the existing base build, and with your lighting control system, there will be sensors that will label us to heat map. We can still work with PIR around auto scaling. It's just not giving you a head count reference, but we do know when somebody leaves a meeting room, PIR tells the light to turn off. It can now inform us of that it's made that decision, and we can then tell the fan coil to turn off. And of course, there are lots of parameters around whether or not you would or wouldn't turn that fan coil off, depending on when the next meeting is booked and when you expect the next person to enter the space. So it's very interesting that we can still use PIR to a right lengthy degree to make sure you're getting as much optimization out of a smart building program as possible. And then lastly, just to end up, is cybersecurity. We are as secure as your banking app. We are a city-based software development agency. We've worked with fintech. We've built peer-to-peer foreign currency exchange platforms. We have credit card authorization. So we make sure that we, at the industry standards globally, 256-bit encryption, TLS 1.2. Also for authentication of users, our apps are available in the App Store and Android. When they're downloaded, there is a workflow to approve users. And we use authentication at OAuth2 levels, same standards, Google, Facebook. And of course, our experience with geolocation is around the shopping centres for smart rewards. And what we've done since deploying with smart spaces gives us a lot of use around beacon technology. Like you saw right at the very beginning with the person entering the turnstiles without needing to even get the phone out of their pocket, that's using beacon technology. And it's now as mature enough a technology that allows us to know what side of the speed lane you are to open up the gates the right way. Thank you for listening. Hope you found it informative. If you'd like to get in touch and learn more about how we're delivering smart buildings, please see the contact details below.